It's a bit of a rarefied atmosphere for us to be holding the cabinet in the council chamber, but we are in the process of refurbishing some of the meeting rooms here, so it felt more appropriate to hold our first cabinet meeting for almost 2 years in person. So we've all got to get used to how we do it in person now, as opposed to how we had to do it virtually. But so welcome, everyone. Apologies, we've got 2 apologies, Kate, haven't we? We've got David Walsh, who's away on council business, and Andrew Parry, who is unwell today. So we've got 2 colleagues not here. Declarations of interest, anyone?
Have we got any other apologies?
No, not in here, no. No? Okay, well, if anything crops up, as usual, just signal. And we've got a great number of minutes of previous meetings that we've held virtually, which Kate tells me I need to read through, and I will do, of course, and sign them off. So can we agree? I think we've probably touched on this at previous meetings, but there are a lot of minutes there for me to deal with. You all content with that? Cabinet? Thank you. Right, public participation. We've got a number of questions this morning. Some of them will be read by officers because the member of the public isn't here, and 1 or 2 will be read by members of the public who are here. So the first question is from Councillor Kelly Webb from Wimborne Town Council, which I believe an officer is going to read. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. So question 1 from Councillor Kelly Webb, Chairman and Town Mayor, Wimborne Minster Town Council. Wimborne Minster Town Council has written to Dorset Council with a number of specific questions. Firstly, on the 5th of November last year, some were answered, but some were not. Many answers, as in this report, simply state the final outcomes will only be known when QE School decide how they will operate once the agreement ends in 2 years' time. It is disappointing that although EDDC, that's East Dorset District Council, worked with a local school for the benefit of the wider community by supporting a shared facility, Dorset Council appears to only be considering the financial savings involved in changing the arrangement. The risk assessments in the report give no consideration as to what could happen to the facility after DC involvement ends, and this is disappointing. QE School could decide to reduce access to the public or remove it altogether. They may need to close some parts of the building to both the public and students, as they are unable to meet the cost of operating or maintaining them. The report before you today seeks to disassociate DC with anything that may or may not happen regarding the QELC facilities and buildings after such time as the agreement ends. This feels morally wrong. Can you confirm the total annual operating cost for the QELC broken down in component parts as to which organisation contributes what amounts? The Trust has advised that 40% of operating costs that they are liable for are covered by the $280,000 of the Exceptional Funding Factor Award, making 100% approximately $700,000. It therefore does not make sense that Dorset Council are estimating £550,000 per annum savings, where the contribution has been advised as 60%, as that figure would represent approximately 80% of the operating costs if 280,000 is indeed 40%. The reason for asking is that the recommendation to withdraw from the agreement may not be sound if the projected savings are incorrect.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you. Thank you for your question, Councillor Webb. If the Council choose to withdraw from the management agreement, then it will be for the school's foundation trustees as the building and landowner to decide how the facilities are managed in the future. We at DC have, however, made it clear in the report that the school are committed to retaining leisure facilities for the school and community use, and we would continue to support them through any transitional period. With regard to the finances, the £280,000 exceptional factor funding contribution covers revenue costs attributable to the school's use of the leisure centre and a 40% contribution towards ongoing capital costs. The school does not contribute 40% of the total costs, as much of this relates to community usage. The figure of £550,000 is the budgeted cost to Dorset Council's leisure services. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Laura. There's now a second question. I think Jonathan's going to read that.
Thank you very much. Question 2 from Councillor Kelly Webb. In the context of this question, Wimborne Minster Town Council maintains all its own play parks within its boundary and its recreation grounds. There are current moves to transfer additional assets of open spaces to Wimborne Minster Town Council ownership, which will increase the maintenance burden. Wimborne Minster Town Council has no significant income-generating assets and has a relatively low tax base with which to support a market town serving a much wider area than its own population. And the second question is, whilst much of the proposal to withdraw from the agreement is based around savings and other similar recreational facilities in the area, what consideration has been given to the fair distribution of Dorset Council's spend on all types of recreational facilities throughout Dorset, and the town and parish council's ability to afford to invest in such facilities themselves? There appears to be a huge disparity in the unitary authority's investment in recreation facilities across Dorset, and also the ability of town and parish councils to generate income. For example, some have access to car park income and others rely solely on their precepts. It may well be that Dorset Council are investing more heavily in QE Leisure Centre than other similar leisure facilities, but comparisons need to be made at a higher level, i.e. Dorset Council's spend on all recreational facilities across Dorset, including open spaces, play parks and beaches, to ensure a fair spread of funding and that comparisons are made with income generation abilities at a local level.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Can I invite Laura Miller to respond, please?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again for your question, Kelly Webb. The report details the high number of other leisure centres close to QE, 3 of which are Dorset Council facilities. We've also highlighted in the report the fantastic country parks that Dorset Council operates close by and the high levels of investment in the East Dorset area. I would also point out that there will be further positive recreational improvements to the area with 2 3G artificial pitches, additional play parks and suitable alternative natural green space, which is related to local housing development. On the overall picture, I'm grateful to Councillor Webb for the question because I agree we need to look at the provision across the whole piece, and therefore a strategic leisure review will be underway that will focus on all aspects of leisure provision, not just the built facilities. Moving forward, that will enable us to work towards a more equitable provision of facilities to support leisure, sport and recreational activities across the whole of Dorset Council area and provide opportunities for all our residents to be active. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Laura. I've now got a question from who's a person who's present. Oh no, officer reading, Ros Bowell, and I believe Matt's reading that one.
Thank you, Chair. So following the meeting of the Council's Place and Resources Overview Committee on 10th of February, with deep regret, we see that it is very likely that at the meeting of the 1st of March, Cabinet will approve a proposal for the Council to withdraw from the dual use agreement at Queen Elizabeth's Leisure Centre. Much was made in the meeting of the Council's offer of support in putting the centre on a sustainable footing going forward, but there was very little detail as to how the Council, which is currently running the centre at significant financial loss, will be able to meaningfully provide such support. Is the Council prepared to commission their specialist leisure consultant to work with the school in developing a costed options appraisal for a future operating model? Will the Council agree to Cabinet receiving this report before the end of 2022 to enable it to consider any additional transitional capital or revenue funding requirements identified?
Laura.
Thank you, Spencer. Thank you to Mr. Bowell for your question. I am confident that we have the expertise across our leisure, property, education and finance services to provide a good level of support to the school as the school considers its future approach to operating its leisure centre. Our leisure review and the development of leisure strategy will help to provide a strategic overview of our provision across the Dorset Council area. This will help to ensure that sports and leisure provision will be sustainable, have a positive impact on improving community health. The strategy is likely to focus on the need for leisure facilities to be accessible, affordable, sustainable, with equitable provision and areas of health inequalities given priority. Any future funding considerations will be aligned to this strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. We've now got 3 questions on the same subject, so I'm going to hold the portfolio holder Ray Bryan back until we've had 3 questions. Dawn Rondu is present. Give you the opportunity to put your question, please. Thank you.
Thank you. We Are Weymouth is Weymouth's business improvement district, and we represent over 560 businesses within the town, with 67 of these being accommodation providers. In the past few weeks, concerns have been raised by guest house owners, the Weymouth Hoteliers Association, holiday let owners and management agents regarding the removal of parking provisions for their guests. In particular, that holiday let owners will no longer be eligible to apply for yearly permits for guest use, and that the hotel guest house parking scratch card system is being withdrawn. These permits and discounted scratch cards are vital, not only for businesses, but for visitors to the town, who may already be discouraged by Weymouth's lack of parking or park and ride infrastructure, providing them with an option for affordable parking within the town during their stay, which for a 7-day stay could equate to £70, a significant and deterring sum. Most B&Bs and guest house market and publish the fact that these vouchers are in operation and available as an incentive to book their stay in Weymouth, as parking is such a concern for most customers. It is our belief that removal of yearly permits and scratch cards will be detrimental to Weymouth's visitor economy, with potential visitors to the town opting to choose another coastal resort, where parking is more readily available and at a reduced or no cost. We have written to Councillor Ray Bryan, portfolio holder for Transport, Highways and Environment, and Councillor John Orrell in his role as Dorset Councillor for Melcombe Regis, and have been informed by Elizabeth Murray, Strategic Parking Project Manager, that Dorset Council do not intend to change its position. We are very disappointed with Dorset Council's response, as the consultation lacked any detail on the breadth and implication of these changes, and we understand that Dorset Council have made changes to the strategy for Corfe Castle, which does not fall in line with your statement about consistency. We therefore ask the portfolio holder for Transport, Highways and Environment 2 questions. Will Dorset Council reconsider its position, acknowledging the fact that tourism and visitors bring to Weymouth, and that the removal of these permits and scratch cards will be detrimental to the town and businesses? And secondly, what does Dorset Council propose to resolve these issues and support the visitor economy? Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question will be read by an officer. It's from Claire Wall.
Thank you. So as a question from Claire Wall, as the chair of the Hotel Guest House Association and a guest house owner myself, I would like to raise a question on behalf of myself and my members who run businesses in the Weymouth town to Councillor Ray Bryan. A member of ours recently made a call to Dorset Parking to purchase more discounted scratch cards for the car parks, as we have been doing for many years. It was made known during that call we could no longer purchase them as of January 2022. Once this was confirmed and the news passed on to all members, you cannot imagine the scale of stress and anxiety this has caused. As a popular tourist town, our members now feel undervalued with this unfair handicap on our businesses. We do not understand why there were no discussions undertaken on the impact this would cause if these scratch cards were removed. Guests who stay for long periods and return year after year appreciate the parking difficulties in finding a space on the road close to the beach. This has previously been made easier by the choice of a reasonably priced scratch card for the car parks nearby. We all feel without this offer we would see less footfall in our town, and businesses who also rely on tourism like ourselves will also see decline. These also include restaurants, cafes, theatres, shops, even to boat trips, buses, taxis and day trip excursions. All these rely on tourism. Tourism is the main revenue in Weymouth and has to be looked at favourably. Most of the guest houses, hotels in Weymouth, especially along the seafront, are leaseholders. Our rents are payable to our landlord, Dorset Council. As well as being businesses, we are residents, workers, tenants and tourism operators. Adding that all up, it's an incredible amount of revenue paid back into the local economy. If guests visiting our town are only having a choice of a limited amount of street permits to park, our roads are going to be heavily congested and will just create chaos, also no good for the environment. This could be avoided if it had been thought through along with consultation aimed at the correct parties. One guest house alone spent £280 for 4 on-street permits, along with £6 on scratch cards. That should be £6,000 on scratch cards from May to September 21. This proves the discount scratch cards were the guest's overall preferred choice. Imagine the revenue and benefits to Dorset Council if this service became available for all guest houses, accommodation providers, without on-site parking to purchase. We are asking if the scratch cards can be reinstated. This would remove the chaos, fear and anxiety felt by all our members for the coming year. Guests more often than not waive the offer of a free on-road permit and opt for the discounted scratch card as they find Weymouth as difficult as residents to find spaces to park on the streets during high season. Tourism has been hit hard during the pandemic and needs support, understanding and consideration from Dorset Council to help build our businesses back up to pre-COVID levels. We would be happy to work with Dorset Council to produce a fair outcome that works for both sides, not only for parking, but further projects that would increase the success of our town. Thank you for your time and listening to our views on this issue.
There we go. Right. We've got a third question on the same subject from Joy Sangster.
Thank you. I'm Joy Sangster from Dream Cottages. We are disappointed to hear very recently that all provision for holiday cottage guests to use parking permits in Weymouth, both on street as well as council-owned car parks, is being removed with immediate effect. Parking permits have been purchased by owners of holiday cottages for decades for the use of guests, and payment contributes to the council. We have been informed that there will be absolutely no provision for owners to obtain council car parking permits at any enhanced cost or for guests to prepay for parking. However, there is current provision for both of these aspects, a platform and a payment gateway for guests to pay in advance for car parking and for owners to pay for council car park permits, all hosted on the website dorsetcouncil.gov parking permits, Weymouth and Portland. Weymouth, Portland weekly parking permit. Will the Cabinet look at best practice around the country where councils have successfully attracted tourists to park and pay online via a website or parking apps for car parks, offering a specialist tourist permit while charging an appropriate rate? Examples are northdevon.gov parking permits, visitor and tourist permits, and eastdevon.gov parking car park permits we offer. Our guests alone may spend around £1 million in the Dorset area once they arrive. Are the Cabinet keen to facilitate the continued success of tourism aided by appropriate parking provision which supports so many jobs and businesses across Dorset? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions. Ray, Brian, to respond to the three, please.
And first of all, can I say thank you for the questions. Over the last year, much research has been done, including engagement with the public, town and parish councils, bids, chambers, and other organisations to work out a charging strategy that works for the residents, businesses, workers, and also works for Dorset Council. Through this period, all stakeholders had the opportunity to respond to the proposals, including the withdrawal of permits and scratch cards, with the expectation that organisations would respond on behalf of the community that they represent. Having completed a benchmarking exercise against other similar visitor destinations in the south of England, it was decided that all discounted parking for visitors and tourists to Dorset should be removed so that affordable permits could be introduced to support people who live and work in Dorset. Following the feedback received in the last month from holiday accommodation businesses in Weymouth, a meeting was held between Dorset Council officers and councillors, including myself as portfolio holder for Highways, Travel and Environment, to look at solutions. A number of proposals were put forward, including the suggestions you have made. After much deliberation and heart-searching, it was decided that the decision to remove permits and scratch cards for visitors to Dorset needed to remain. The reasons for this were to ensure consistency with other holiday destinations in the Dorset Council area and to retain funds for the new permits for residents, businesses and workers. The impact of this decision will be monitored and changes made if necessary. This year, the use of the Weymouth Park and Ride will be investigated to see if there is a more affordable parking option for visitors to Weymouth. And can I just, I've received a message from the officer responsible and from my lead member, Councillor Lacey Clark, that there are no special provisions for Corfe. We have no special provisions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray. We've got one final question now from Linda Stevenson, which will be read by an officer. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 7 from Linda Stevenson. How can groups like Dog Friendly Weymouth and Portland, Paws on Weymouth Beaches and Open Spaces Dog Walkers Clearing the Way reach the residents who are concerned with dog fouling regarding the role they've played in changing attitudes to responsible dog ownership, and how they can help everyone understand that dog owners are equally concerned but are finding it increasingly difficult to walk dogs in the community they live in for fear of abuse? Can the council assure people of the role of the dog wardens and council employees who can issue fines for dog fouling? And when will this be implemented? We have been told it is not often possible because dog fouling happens during the hours of darkness, which, as dog owners know, dogs are walked at all times of the day. This is evident when we walk our dogs and report dog fouling to the dog warden department via email or telephone. We have been assured all reports of dog fouling will be investigated, sadly something that up until recently was not happening. We would also like answers to the ongoing discrimination against families with assistance dogs or mobility issues in gaining access to public spaces on Dorset beaches. Without an individual equality impact assessment where each public space is assessed and permanent adjustments made, this is seen as indirect discrimination by disabled people who live, visit or holiday in Dorset.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, a response from Laura Miller, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question. I have 3 dogs myself, so I have every sympathy. The Council recognises the important role of groups that promote responsible dog ownership. We will work with all members of the community to improve understanding of the law and the welfare of dogs and the benefits of responsible dog ownership. No one should live in fear of abuse, and incidents need to be reported. We have 6 Dorset Council animal welfare and dog control officers carrying out a range of duties over a large area. They undertake patrols in hotspot areas where there are known problems, but with such a large area to focus on, it is difficult to be in the right place at the right time to witness an offence. To help with enforcement, we have a further 20 Town and Parish Council authorised officers. All reports of fouling are investigated, but the evidence supplied often doesn't reach the standard required to take enforcement action. We encourage complainants to provide as much detail as possible so that we can carry out patrols in the daylight hours that will coincide with the occurrence of likely offences. On discrimination, people using an assistance dog do not have to comply with the exclusion restrictions or the requirement to dispose of dog faeces. An equalities impact assessment was done for the PSPO and is updated as necessary. Dorset Council needs to achieve a balance between access to exercise areas for dogs and dog owners and the protection of public health. Specific concerns are being looked at by officers as part of a review of the dog-related Public Spaces Protection Order. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Laura. We now go on to questions from members of this council. And the first one is Kate Weller.
Thank you very much, Chairman. On the final day of Dorset County Council, I attended a meeting with Sorry, not close enough to it, am I? Is that better? Yes? On the final day of Dorset County Council, I attended a meeting with Councillor Darrell Turner, then the Cabinet member, to discuss a petition from residents to reduce the 60-mile-per-hour section of Portland Beach Road to match the rest of the road. On balance, Councillor Turner and the officers agreed that this was a sensible suggestion and that work could be undertaken for a report to go to the new Cabinet and new full Council. This seems to have been lost without trace. There was a serious traffic incident on Sunday afternoon on the stretch of road I'm speaking about. And I don't want to preempt any police investigation and report, which I know we have to wait for. However, may I highlight that crossing these fast-moving lanes of traffic going across from a small junction into these roads is particularly dangerous. Secondly, also, towards the end of the life of Dorset County Council, I submitted a petition requesting officers to look into the possibility of providing residents parking for Ebor Road in White Regis. Officers stated that since there were only 7 names on the petition, they would not pursue the issue. They were informed that there were only 7 houses in Ebor Road and all residents had signed the petition. Officers told me they would look again at the scheme, but that too seems to be lost. Councillor Brown suggested a little while ago that he was in favour of residents parking, so I wonder whether this could be looked at as well. Shall I go on and ask my second question and then... No? Okay.
Come back to you, Kate. Councillor Ray Bryan.
That's better.
She's got Tony, you're in shot rather than Ray. Yeah. Tony, you can't switch the microphone. The camera follows the microphone.
Can I have mine back?
Yeah, but it doesn't work.
Switch that one off.
Ray.
Hey. Apologies, we got there eventually. A petition was received in early 2018 for reducing the speed limit on the A354 Portland Beach Road, leading to a petition panel on the 21st of February 2018. The panel agreed the reduction of the speed limit to 50 miles per hour from national speed limit of 60 should be taken forward pending support from Dorset Police and Weymouth and Portland Borough Council. A counter-petition was then received and a decision was made to not take this forward. The road safety team would be able to work with and review any new request from the Town Council in Weymouth. In relation to the residents' parking scheme for Ebor Road and White Regis, in White Regis, the first stage for residents is to ensure that the town or parish council's support has been given to a residents' scheme. Dorset Council can start a review after support has been achieved. Currently, there are a number of locations across Dorset that we are looking at the potential for residential schemes, which will be reviewed as part of the next phase of the parking transformation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Kate, your second question.
No? On? Yes. I note that so-called ghost ponds are being restored in many areas of the country. Can you tell me whether any investigation has taken place on the existence of such ponds on Dorset Council's farms or other land we own? And if they do, whether we could reinstate them? It would seem to be a great way of improving biodiversity and possibly improving drainage and possibly, therefore, flooding. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Invite Tony Ferrari to respond, please.
Thank you, Councillor Weld, for the question. Give us an opportunity to shine a light into an area of council business that doesn't often get seen. Colleagues from the Natural and Environment team and Assets and Property work together to identify and progress projects to improve biodiversity on the council's rural estate. 2 successful Farming in Protected Landscapes grants from Dorset and Cranbourne Chase AOMBs, match funding using compensation funds, will enable ecological baseline and potential habitat creation and restoration surveys, including a desktop study identifying opportunities for pond creation and restoration. Stage 2 and a habitat delivery change in management will include potential to improve drainage and flooding. In addition, a number of opportunities to create new ponds and in some cases restore ghost ponds have been identified across the Council's rural estate and progressing to assist Dorset Council's Great Crested Newt licensing scheme managed by the Natural Environment team in Margaret Marsh. Other examples include on county farms, Newhouse and Jolliffes. In the case of Jolliffes, a new pond was created in an area where a pond had previously been present. Great Crested Newt compensation funds have also been received from a highway scheme in Gillingham, and progress is being made to deliver ponds and farm advice on wider Dorset Council farms, working with the Farm and Wildlife Advisory Group in the headwaters of the River Stour catchment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tony. We've now got 2 questions from Nick Ireland. We'll take them separately, Nick. So, Nick Ireland.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Actually, just before I start, I had a query actually from Trevor Bevins at Dorset, obviously the Dorset Echo, saying he doesn't seem to see Cabinet online. Are we streaming online? Yeah, okay. He's obviously mistaken. Anyway, so first question, and I have a supplementary, if I may. Dorset Council recently announced 2 contract awards related to the voluntary community sector, brackets VCS, one related to training, support and development, and the other to communication and networking. There is a focus, particularly in the first contract, on the most deprived areas of Dorset Council's area, specifically numerous wards of urban Weymouth and Portland, plus Bridport, and a few additional urban wards elsewhere in our area. The remainder of our market towns and predominant rural communities will only be required to receive, and I quote from the tender, base level coverage. The areas outside of the contract's focus contain, and again I quote, hundreds of community organisations such as local charities, community groups, village hall committees, social enterprises and parish councils, many of whom have barely survived the pandemic and did so by relying heavily on the existing support structure which already has a good understanding of the Dorset Council area, landscape and communities. So my question here is how will Dorset Council be supporting these organisations when the support is removed shortly?
Thank you, Nick. A reply from Laura Miller, please.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Nick, for your question. We have a great relationship with the voluntary and community sector here in Dorset, and supporting them is really important. They provide a huge amount of support to Dorset residents. Dorset Council is committed to supporting the wide range of organisations. The recent contracts are just 2 examples of the support that we provide to the sector. Laura Cornett's team also provides support, including financial grants directly from the council and also support for applying for funding from other bodies. I'm sure that colleagues around the room would agree that it's right that we focus on the areas of deprivation, but ensure that there is still support elsewhere. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Laura. Just to clarify, other people are receiving the live streaming, so it must be a problem in one particular place. Nick, your second question.
This is my supplementary to first. Off again, sorry. If she wishes to delay the response, that's fine. So with the National Acre, and for those who don't know what that is, it's Action with Communities in Rural England. It's a national organisation. But the National Acre member no longer being supported by Dorset Council, and we have only one in the council area, how will this council be ensuring that VCSE organisations are getting up-to-date, accurate policy and legislation information as provided by DCA, Dorset Community Action, during the coronavirus pandemic?
Thanks, Nick. I will come back with a more detailed answer, if I may. The requirement to receive detailed information towards the VCSE has changed since the sort of primary lockdown kind of instant need to be very abrupt and timely with our communications, but we still need to. I would prefer to get you all the detail on that, and I'll provide a full written response if that's okay.
Absolutely fine. Nick, your second question.
Yeah, I've asked this question 2 years ago, apparently. At the last Dorset Full Council, it was disappointing to note that yet again the presented pay policy statement highlighted the fact that Dorset Council is still not a real living wage employer. For information, we pay circa £1,500 per annum less than the real living wage threshold, and the source is livingwage.org.uk. Just to interject at that moment, hot off the press, most of you know the local government pay award has just come through, which is backdated to 2021. However, we still pay less than the real living wage, even with that taken into account, 40p an hour, in fact. So it was equally disappointing to hear the portfolio holder repeating the incorrect mantra that it isn't possible for local authorities to make this happen, and dumbfounding to hear the leader boast that we pay the national minimum and living wages when it is actually a legal requirement that we do so. Given that numerous local authorities, including our near neighbours Cornwall, to whom our leader is providing peer support, they are accredited real living wage employers, with some even taking the socially conscious decision to go further and insist their suppliers are of the same status. When will this Cabinet take the issue seriously and commission a paper on the subject for discussion in this forum at a later date and subsequent debate at full council? Thank you.
I invite Jill Haynes to reply, please.
Thank you, Leader. Good morning, Councillor Ireland. The National Local Government Pay Award has been agreed very recently, as you say, and means an increase of 2.75% on our lowest pay point. This brings it to £9.50 an hour. The national living wage, of course, we are legally required to pay, will also be £9.50 an hour from the 1st of April. On top of this, of course, there is still the National Pay Award for 22-23 to resolve, and which will take effect from this April. Assuming at the same increase again, this will take our lowest rate to over £9.75 an hour. The real living wage is currently at £9.90, and therefore the annual difference would be £288 per year, not £1,500. The national local government employers are seeking to increase the lowest pay point over a period to achieve the real living wage. As the Council is committed to national bargaining, then it is right that we support the national employers in their endeavours. Moving unilaterally to the real living wage not only has practical implications on pay differentials, but also may see us paying outside the national agreed rates. Comparisons with other councils are easy to make, but of course only ever tell part of the story. We know that, for example, some who pay the real living wage are also making large numbers of redundancies in order to balance their budgets. We are not. What would Councillor Ireland prefer?
Thank you, Jill. And while I've got the microphone, it's unprecedented for me, but I'm going to comment about the question because it refers to me as having boasted about us meeting the national living wage, when I actually listened to the recording and I pointed out that we were obliged to comply with it, but that actually some of our rates were above that figure. And I just wanted to make it clear for the public interest, that's not actually what I said. So, moving on, we've now got a question from Councillor Bill Trite.
Thank you, Chairman. The Swanage locality rapid response vehicle, usually referred to as the ambulance car or paramedic car, has a record of preventing many deaths in Swanage and nearby villages by administering life-saving support well before a conventional ambulance reaches such emergency cases. This service is vital in Swanage owing to, among other things, the town's relative remoteness from accident and emergency facilities. It's higher than Dorset average of elderly and vulnerable residents. The exceptional holiday time road traffic congestion, which extends ambulance journey times both to collect patients and to transport them to A&E, and the doubling or trebling of the number of people in the town in the summer months. Moreover, the ambulance car can be tethered to the immediate area, whereas an ambulance cannot. Yet, notwithstanding the even greater local concern that the ambulance car may soon be withdrawn, a recent Freedom of Information response by the Ambulance Trust revealed that the car was staffed for only 42% of the time throughout 2021, representing a swingeing de facto reduction of this service without any due consultation process. To meet and address these grave concerns and shortcomings, the Council has promised to convene a task and finish group comprising appropriate persons. Could we please have an update on when the first meeting of such a duly constituted task and finish group will be taking place?
Thank you very much, Bill. I'm going to ask the chairman of the People and Health Overview Committee, Mike Parks, to respond to this because, as you rightly say, the Cabinet did agree to set up a task and finish group. It has done so. Mike's in the process of doing that. So, Mike Parks, would you like to respond to the question from Bill Tripe, please?
Thank you, Leader, for giving me the opportunity to speak on this, and thank you, Councillor Tripe, for your question. At the Cabinet meeting on the 5th of October 2021, the portfolio holder for adult and social care and health announced that a working group should be set up to respond to the clinical commissioning group's consultation as soon as the consultation is announced. The leader has agreed the terms of reference for the task and finish group, and I've been asked to chair that group. It is still the case that the first meeting will take place as soon as the consultation has begun, at which point we will know what we are being consulted about. However, the evidence gathering process for the task and finish group will commence in the first week of April. It is unsatisfactory that communities have been left for so long with the uncertainty about the future of the ambulance car, and I've written to the CCG asking either, one, that they confirm that the ambulance car is to be retained fully staffed, in which case there is no need for the task and finish group to meet, or that the CCG bring forward specific proposals for consultation to which the council and communities can respond. And I was going to let Councillor Tripe know when I'd heard that, but I actually had an email this morning, which I will forward on to Councillor Tripe, but just to precede the first part of it, is the Clinical and Commissioning Group, CCG, and South West Ambulance Service Foundation Trust are about to publish an open letter and engagement plan regarding the Purbeck car. It continues to be a hugely busy time for the whole of the NHS, with the exceptional pressures on the service because of COVID-19 pandemic and winter demands. Because of this, it has taken us longer than we'd hoped to run our listening and engagement activities with the local communities and interested stakeholders. And as I say, I will forward that email on to you, Councillor Tripe. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you very much, Mike. Now, Bill, you've got a second question, I believe.
Barely requires an answer. Many people in Swanage are looking forward to real progress with this group. It's a surprise in some respects that the group is a necessity. In fact, many people feel that with so much the NHS is having to do at the present time, I feel it's something of a pity that this threat to the ambulance car in Swanage persists.
Right, Bill, I think that was probably more of a statement than a question, but you carry on to your second question now, please.
I should have preceded it with, does the chairman not agree? Okay. Thank you, Chairman. Dorset Council has, I understand, a statutory role in representing the needs of residents who will or could be adversely affected by changes to health services. Since Swanage and nearby villages will be the area worst affected by loss of the Swanage-based ambulance car, can local residents rely on the Cabinet ensuring that at least one of the local Dorset Council members be appointed to the task and finish group mentioned in the last question?
As before, I'll refer to Mike Parks to respond, please. Thank you.
So local ward members will not be appointed. Am I on now? All right, okay. Thank you. Sorry, I'll start again. So local ward members will not be appointed to the Task and Finish group. However, reflecting the importance of local knowledge and their community leadership role, Swanage ward members will be invited to the meetings of the Task and Finish group to provide evidence and their views to the group. Thank you.
Thank you.
That answer is understood. Does the committee chairman not agree, however, that there is something wrong with an arrangement whereby membership of such a geographically focused task and finish group as this one is confined to one council committee to the exclusion of any local member who's not on that committee but is at the sharp end of the problem as well as being most familiar with it? What practical sense does that make, and how does it best serve the public interest? And can I say that in my earlier question, I mentioned Swanage and surrounding villages, thereby extending slightly the meaning of local so that potential members of this committee extend beyond myself and Councillor Suttle. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill. I would, on the last point, the terms of reference do extend to areas other than Swanage in its terms of reference to give the opportunity for people, particularly local members, to come in and give evidence around the issues and the importance of the ambulance car. And I've made it clear on a number of occasions the importance I see in the retention of the ambulance car. But I don't think, the simple fact is that we're working in accordance with the Constitution of the Council, and I have said that in other places more than once, and I don't really think there's a need this morning to respond fully. I take your point, but we are where we are. We have the opportunity for local members to come in and impart their local knowledge. It would be very helpful, and I'm sure, and I know that's been done before with other task and finish groups, and we'll do the same again. I'm sure Mike will be as open as anybody else would be in allowing local members to participate in one way or another. We've got two questions from John Orrell now. We're going to take them separately, John. So, first question.
Thank you, Chair. If I can follow with a supplementary, because I recognise that my first question has already been answered. So I'll ask it anyway. Will the council support hotels and guest houses in Weymouth as they recover from the impact of the pandemic by replacing the loss of scratch card permits with an electronic equivalent or similar cost access to the Pavilion, Lodmore and Swanery car parks?
I'll invite Ray Bryan to respond, please.
Thank you, Councillor Orrell, for the question. As you've rightfully said, it's a duplication of questions that have already been asked, so can I refer you to the answer I've already given? Thank you.
Yes.
On that, or do you want to?
My supplementary, if I may. If it's picking up on the park and ride option, which I welcome as a means forward, this could be a solution. The fundamental problem we've had with the park and ride is that the local bus company has proved incapable of providing a reliable and close enough service, in that they had their bus stop a couple hundred yards from the park and ride, which is no good for people with suitcases on holiday. So would the council use the increased income it's going to generate from this new car park policy to subsidise an electric bus so that it becomes a viable park and ride?
Again, thank you for the question. It's always interesting to get a diverse view on this. I'm very keen that we use the park and ride facility for its purpose, and that's to get a way of keeping people out of the town centre, but getting them into the centre for their holidays or recreation or going shopping. Under the BSIP proposal that I should be talking about later on, we have a tremendous opportunity to get the bus companies working with us to provide the sort of facilities that you're looking for. So I'm perfectly happy to keep you fully informed and to discuss at any stage, Councillor Orrell, the proposals going forward. The park and ride is to me, important going forward.
Thank you very much, Ray. John, you've got a second question now.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Second question. How many people a year are being placed by agencies outside Dorset, for example, housing associations, treatment agencies, other councils or probation, away from their families and support networks to central Weymouth hotels and hostels?
Invite Councillor Graham Carr-Jones to respond, please.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Hall. The question is, as written, is actually too broad to provide a specific answer or annual figure, generally referring to agencies outside Dorset. So I'll follow this question up with Councillor Hall to explore his particular areas of concern. That agencies outside of Dorset use relatively small amounts of this type of accommodation in central Weymouth to provide housing for people they are supporting, along with local agencies and the council. Dorset Council's housing team are part of a well-established network of organisations to make sure that this is managed well with informed, shared where necessary. For example, we collaborate well with Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council to make sure that we share information when they find it necessary to use a Weymouth property for people from their area and to make sure that the person is able to live successfully in that location. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Graham, for that response. That's the end of members' questions this morning. Thank you very much, everybody. Go on to agenda item 6, which is the forward plan. It's for us to note the draft. As I say repeatedly at every meeting, it's an iterative document. It moves all the time. I have made the comment that we need to look hard at fleshing out some of the future commitments we've got as work for this cabinet, and that will be done. But are you content to note the plan as set out? Thank you very much. We now go on to agenda item 7, the Purbeck Gateway. I'm going to invite Councillor Graham Carr-Jones to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, back in October 2019, Dorset Council Cabinet approved the recommendation to develop the middle school site in Wareham with new homes and services to meet care, health and housing needs for local people. I'm pleased that this is coming back to Cabinet with a fresh set of recommendations, taking account of a considerable amount of work to bring into the scope up to date, and considering how the care and housing market has changed over the past 2 years. We are now recommending a mix of affordable extra care housing, supported living and general needs housing on the former middle school site in Wareham. Creating these homes and services will have huge positive impacts for people living in Purbeck. It will enable people who need support to live independent lives in modern, purpose-built homes of their own, but with the benefit of an on-site care and support when they should need it. Extra care housing is a preventative model, helping people to maintain or improve independence in a home of their own and avoid admission into residential care or hospital. The scheme will incorporate cutting-edge technology enabled care and is likely to generate cost savings for the council. New permanent supported living will provide a long-term home for the people living at Red Oak Court. We can involve them in the design of their new homes and eventually move the units at Red Oak Court to new locations across Dorset. NHS Dorset Healthcare have reconsidered whether a new health hub building is needed as part of their approach to modern integrated health services in Wareham. The financial position has shifted considerably since the original concept, and the new building does not now offer the best value for money. The outcome of this is that they have decided not to go ahead with the development of the health hub and to develop a different approach, making use of existing buildings and continuing to develop effective ways to collaborate and integrate their services. The GP Partnership and NHS Dorset Clinical Commissioning Group are considering the implications of this decision, but are likely to decide to proceed with the development of a standalone GP surgery, alongside the housing developments on the middle school site. The financial model for this is well understood and in place. The best way to deliver this project is to tender for a development partner. Given the housing types that we require, this is likely to be a registered provider of social housing. If the GPs decide to proceed with a new surgery, this will separately be commissioned by the CCG in parallel with our procurement. We will continue to work closely with health partners to provide the best outcome for this site. This approach reduces the financial risk to Dorset Council, as we will not be required to contribute capital funding directly. We can expect to receive a capital receipt for the land, and the care and support services will require revenue funding, but this will be commissioned separately at a later stage through Dorset Care Framework. So I'm actually delighted to be recommending this to Cabinet and to see the scheme moves forward after so many years of trying to get something off the ground. Very exciting times for Dorset Council to be in control, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Graham. I'm going to invite Councillor Peter Wharf to add to that. Peter.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm assuming Councillor Carr-Jones is proposing that?
I will be, sir.
Thank you. I will certainly second it. I would make two brief points. The first is that this has been the subject of discussion for a very long time, and Councillor David Walsh from the planning portfolio, myself from the adult social care portfolio, and Councillor Carr-Jones from the housing portfolio have worked very closely on this. We are disappointed that healthcare haven't necessarily provided what we hoped they might, but the fact is this is an excellent outcome and will provide much needed accommodation and services that has been in progress for quite some time. So I'm really pleased, and it is an exciting project. Thank you, Chairman.
We are trying to silence.
Yeah, we are trying to silence the builders, but they're so enthusiastic they haven't stopped yet. But you never know, that might happen. Before I open up to the Cabinet, is there any non-executive members in the chamber here who wishes to comment? Nick.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to share the disappointment of Councillor Wharf. As a Dorset Healthcare Governor, I think we've missed an opportunity here, but it is what it is. I'm also slightly worried about the GP surgery. From my own experience in Crossways, we've had the CCG there trying to pull back from having a new surgery in Crossways in a development which is planned, so we'll see what happens there. I'm glad to see that something's happening with the site, but correct me if I'm wrong. I think there was an idea back in the day, back in Dorset County Council's days, that the whole site would be some sort of one-stop shop, so we'd have social care, social workers, and I think even suggesting maybe the Westport House might close as a result of that. What's the status of that? Is that being binned now?
We can get a comment for you.
Sorry, it's been a long time coming. It's 6 years in the making, and as you say, yes, we can share disappointment, but I don't want to be disappointed. I want to be excited because it means that this is within Dorset Council's control. We've actually got an ability to crack on and get it done, get that housing that's so desperately needed in Purbeck. So yeah, we share disappointment, but we move on with glee and thinking here we're going to actually deliver something that's within our control.
Okay, I don't see anybody else with a hand up. If not, I'll go to the to Cabinet. But what I would add to what Graham just said, this feels like a really good news story, something that we can really get into and demonstrate some tangible outcomes. I can see Jill.
Thank you, Leader. This was in my portfolio in Dorset County Council 6 years ago. It's stalled. It's had its problems with health. It's a really good news story that it's moving on now, and I do hope that it does move on and not stall again. I think it's really positive for that area, and it's exactly the right thing to do, so I'm very supportive.
Thank you very much, Jill. Any other Cabinet colleague wish to comment? There are 4 parts to this recommendation. I don't intend to read them out. You all know what they are. Are you content to support the recommendation?
Yeah, content.
Right, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to agenda item 8 now, which is school admissions. In the absence of Andrew Parry, who's not well today, can I ask Teresa Levy just to present the report, please?
Thank you, Chair. And good morning, colleagues. So I'm delighted to bring to Cabinet today the Schools Admission Arrangements and Coordinated Scheme for 2023-2024. It's a requirement for us from the DfE, various acts and legislation, to review our admissions policy on an annual basis. And that requires consultation, which has now been completed, and recommendation of this report to you today. It's very timely. It coincides with our ability to notify families today of their successful application for their school places for this year, and with a great outcome of 98% for those for their secondary schools and 99% almost for upper schools. So a really good position for us to be in terms of our families having their choice of school. It's also important to note that actually 95% of those applications this year were online applications, and families were able to access from 9:30 this morning their online account. So the DfE admission code consultation closed. There was some communication back from that consultation, but not extensive, in that there wasn't a huge amount of change to our admissions code. It's been a fairly well, in fact, very well piece of work managed by our team for many years. Where we have given particular attention to this year is to ensure that our admissions code absolutely supports the Armed Forces Covenant, ensuring that no children of forces families are disadvantaged by our admissions code, in fact, quite the opposite. So I'm very happy to recommend that to you. I do have our admissions leader, Ed Denham, here, who many of you will have met previously, who's able to take any detailed questions and comments from you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Teresa, for stepping in Andrew's absence. I note we've got Byron Quell, one of the lead members in that particular service. Byron, anything you'd like to add to what Teresa's already said on this report?
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, Councillor Perry did want me to express his thanks to Teresa and her team for this report, but also for the work they do. And if you would, Chairman, allow me to boast a little bit about the good service we have here in Dorset, and of course these fantastic results we have today for the learners in Dorset. And again, to the team under Teresa Levy, Andrew Perry's thanks and mine as well.
Thank you very much, Byron. So in the absence of Andrew, I need a proposer. I believe, Laura, you're content to propose the recommendation. Ray, I believe you're happy to second. I know, I'm dealing with it. Hang on. Ray, happy to second? It will be slightly modified because there's a typo in the report. It says September 21, it should say September 2023. Okay, so with that amendment, it's been proposed and seconded. Now, while I've got the microphone, colleagues, I mean, this is, it's here, it has to be, it's important. Any non-executive colleagues wishing to comment on this item? Kate.
I think it is on this time, thank you. Thanks very much, Leader. Just very briefly, Dorset Council's comms team have something on their, I think it's on their Facebook page this week, a little graphic of cars going round and round a school with parents looking for spaces to park in order to drop their children off. And below this, there is a comment from a resident saying, well, of course, if children went to school at a distance they could walk to school, this would be prevented. And I'd just like to make a comment, really, as much as anything else, that wherever possible, if children went to the school that was local to them, it would reduce the number of cars on the road, and it would certainly help in our climate agenda and everything else. But I think we are obliged, aren't we, to offer them the schools that they choose, and they may be a car journey away, not a walking journey away, and I think that that's a shame.
I think we say comment noted, okay? Cabinet colleagues, you've seen... Sorry? Oh, Councillor Knock-Lacey-Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, I just wanted to kind of counter-comment. I think it's much more important that the child goes to the right school for them. granted, it'd be great if no one used cars and we did all go to the local school, but actually I think the most important thing is that all children in Dorset get the education that is right for them and helps them grow into the people we all hope to be.
Thank you, Nock, and I think we've got a lot of really good examples of that across the Dorset geography. Right, Cabinet colleagues, anyone wish to comment on this, or are you content to support the 7-part recommendation set out in the report? Agreed?
Agreed.
Right, thank you very much. We're now going to move on to agenda item 9, which is the Charmouth Parish Neighbourhood Plan. And we haven't got David Walsh today, but Laura Miller, I understand you're an able substitute.
Thank you, Chair. Parish councils and communities come under my cabinet responsibility. So this gives me a really good opportunity to say well done to Charmouth Parish Council. That's one of the recommendations, is to offer our congratulations and to the Parish Council and members of the Neighbourhood Plan group. Neighbourhood plans are really important. They are also a huge amount of work. And so it's always nice when one comes forward for us to make, I believe, is the recommendation, that we make the Charmouth Neighbourhood Plan 2021 to 2035. Any detailed questions I probably won't be able to answer because I don't live in Charmouth and I didn't make the plan. But I think it's just really important to say that this gives neighbourhoods and communities the chance to express their hopes and their plans for their own community, and it's a really, really important thing to do. So I'm very, very happy to recommend both of the recommendations, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. I believe there's a seconder. Jill? Just put your hand up. You don't wish to say anything?
Sorry, Chairman, I was putting my hand up to second. I haven't got anything more to add than Laura has said already.
That's what we want to hear. Non-executive colleagues, anyone wish to comment? What I would say is that this is one of a long list of made neighbourhood plans, and I think the Dorset Council should be proud of the fact that so many of our parish councils have got involved in the process. I think it's a really positive contribution at the level, getting in the first level of local government and so on. I think it's really important that communities get involved in trying to map out their own futures. So, colleagues, I think this is very straightforward. We all agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We go on to agenda item 10, proposed blue badge car parking charging policy, and I'll hand over to Ray Bryan. That'll be recorded. Thank you, Graham, for that. Where was I? Ray Bryan.
Thank you, Leader. The policy that we have in front of us is fairly simple. It's to try and harmonise the blue badge usage across the whole of Dorset. Some points I'd like to raise are the current schemes are certainly not equal. They're very varied across Dorset. The new scheme combines previous schemes and ensures consistency, thus fairness, across Dorset Council. The policy was formed from public engagement. We spent a lot of time talking to the public about this, talking to the blue badge holders about this, and the scheme provides support for all blue badge holders. The scheme gives extra support for those with the highest mobility difficulties. The policy was recommended to Cabinet by Place and Resources Overview on the 10th of February. The purpose of the extra time is not a financial incentive or benefit. It is about recognising that it may take longer for blue badge holders to transition to and from their vehicles to their destination. There is no charge on on-street blue badge parking, so blue badge holders will still be able to park close to the facilities should they need to. The recommendation is to align the former council policies to one, to bring consistency and fairness to blue badge holders who park in Dorset Council car parks.
Thank you very much, Ray. I believe I have a seconder. Okay. And before I open up for discussion within the Cabinet, are there any non-executive colleagues wish to comment on this item? Les.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to say I was present at the meeting when this was considered. It was given a lot of discussion and consideration, and I fully support this document and thank all those who've worked on it for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Les. I don't see anybody else. So, Cabinet colleagues, Graham?
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just comment that since the introduction of the Just Park app, it has revolutionised my ability to use the council's car parks in the best way without having to struggle to put money in those blessed machines. So for that, I'm very, very grateful, Chairman. Just a comment from a user.
No, very good comment, Graham, too. Any other colleagues wishing to contribute to this debate? If not, can we agree the recommendations as set out in the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. We'll move on now to item 11, the bus service improvement plan. Ray Bryan.
Thank you, Chairman. This is all about the creation of the Dorset Enhanced Partnership, and it's part of the BSIP programme. In order to deliver the Council's bus service improvement plan, a formal agreement must be in place between the Council with all local bus service operators, and this is what this is all about. This is about trying to make sure that we have the bus companies and everybody else singing off the same hymn sheet to make sure we get absolutely right. This programme, the bus service improvement plan, which we're still waiting for government to tell us how much we're going to get. I'll just throw that in there just to give them a reminder. It's so important because if I sit my other hat on, which is the climate change, you'll notice on page 181, the Enhanced Partnership will be responsible for delivering aspirations of the bus service improvement plan for reducing carbon emissions from transport. With a good bus service, we will see a reduction in the amount of cars that are driving around. We will benefit from that, not just from the carbon reduction, but for the residents of Dorset. They'll be able to breathe much cleaner air. So this proposal that's in front of us today is purely about the recommendation is the Council approved to the Dorset Enhanced Partnership and that the plan and scheme can be made to commence the Enhanced Partnership on the 1st of April 2022. And the second part is that the Cabinet delegates decision-making powers to the current portfolio holder to approve the decisions of the Enhanced Partnership Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. I believe I've got a seconder for that. Gary? Yeah? Any non-executive colleagues? Yes. Derek.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Leader. This is an absolutely crucial opportunity, as Ray has said, to get all the operators working together so that when people come, for instance, from Bourton in the north of our area to come down to Weymouth, they can buy one ticket, one fare, which covers all of the operators. And hopefully we can alleviate many of the changes people have to do. This morning on my way down, I've watched people having to buy 3 fares, change buses 3 times. I brought up in the consultation that this is an absolute opportunity to get through journeys. People, when they travel, describe a journey that they have to change in as a problem. We won't go that because you have to change, be it train, bus, whatever. This is an absolute opportunity to get decent services right across our area, through to Somerset, through to Hampshire and Wiltshire, with the type of tickets which were available 20 years ago. You could buy a ticket from Minehead to Portsmouth and go straight through. We've lost all that, and people don't want to change, don't want to keep paying more fares. You can pay 40 quid for a family to go from Stour Pain to Weymouth, which is balmy. So this is a real opportunity, Leader, and thank you, Ray, to get this right. We've had a consultation. I just hope that when we get there and the funding comes, we can get it into practice, because what we have at the minute is a deterrent to travel. And we really, really want to get people enjoying their journeys and making them as simple and as hassle-free as possible. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Derek, for your constructive contributions. Really useful. Thank you for that. Ray, do you want to come back?
Yes, and thank you, Councillor Beer, for your comments, because you and I are on the same hymn sheet on this. And I'd like to remind members that on Monday the 15th of March 2021, the government launched the Bus Back Better National Bus Strategy. And its rules were it had to be attractive for passengers. That's not just on having one ticket to go everywhere. The buses have to be clean, tidy, and it has to be cheaper. It has to be much easier to understand and use, hence the reason that we're looking at bus stops and everything else to make sure there's electronic messaging so people know exactly when the next bus is going to come along. It has to be faster and more reliable. And last but not least, as I've already mentioned, it has to be greener. So I thought I'd just point those out to members before we make this decision.
Thank you very much, Ray. Cabinet colleagues? I don't see any indication. Are you content to support the recommendation?
Content.
Yes, thank you very much. Agenda item 12, Dorset Highway Assets Management Plan Review. Ray.
Yes, thank you, Leader. The Highways Asset Management Policy and Strategy document demonstrates how Highways has aligned its strategies to support Dorset Council priorities and how the authority will manage its highway assets in the future. Bearing in mind the highways are probably the largest asset that this council actually has. There is a requirement for local highway authorities to have an approved strategic document for highway infrastructure, which is linked to 2 million of incentivised funding from the Department for Transport. This is required to be approved every 2 years and is now due to be reviewed. The Highways Asset Management Policy and Strategy document offers transparency in our decision-making, demonstrating investment scenarios that have been considered across all asset groups. It is further intended to be informative to our stakeholders in demonstrating how we propose to invest across our highway assets. This document was submitted to the Place and Resources Overview Committee for review. The Executive Director of Place, having heard the debate, confirmed the Minded 2 recommendation to Cabinet. I would like to put forward the recommendations as laid out. If anybody wants me to read them out, I can read them out, but I'm sure you've all read the papers anyway.
Thank you very much, Ray. Seek a seconder. Peter Wharf, thank you very much. Open up to non-executive colleagues. Yeah, Les, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This came before Place and Overview on the 10th of February, of which I was at that meeting. It is a very good paper. It's well written. There's lots of detail in there, and I challenge anybody who hasn't read it to go into detail and have a look. So I fully support this one. Thank you. Chairman, I was also a bit concerned about Councillor Bryan's comments earlier. He's on a hymn sheet. Is that a solo or a duet with Councillor Beer he's doing?
You haven't heard him sing. Right. Any other Cabinet colleague wish to contribute to this debate, or can we agree the recommendations? Agreed? Agreed. Move on to agenda item 13 now. It's a very long title, which I don't intend to go into. It's ASBA-related PSPOs. Well, that'll do, won't it? Laura.
That will do, yeah. Thank you, Chair. So we have an existing antisocial behaviour-related Public Spaces Protection Order, or a PSPO, for West Dorset, and that covers Dorchester, Bridport, West Bay and Lyme Regis. It's due to expire on the 22nd of April this year, and we're seeking a 4-month extension to the order to enable appropriate consideration of the consultation responses received during our review of the PSPOs, which cover the Dorset Council area. The extension has the support of statutory consultees, including the Police and Crime Commissioner, Dorset Police and all the relevant town councils. It's really important to say that the Community Safety Partnership, so all of those partners, consider that the current PSPOs have been an effective deterrent to antisocial behaviour since they were introduced in 2018. So it's relatively straightforward, colleagues, but it is very, very important. The recommendation is to extend the West Dorset ASB-related PSBO until the 19th of August this year.
Thank you, Laura. Seconder? Peter? Oh, we got Graham. Okay, thank you very much, Graham. I think this is really straightforward. It's an extension of time to do further work on this. I don't think we need to dwell very long on this one. If colleagues are agreed? Agreed? Thank you very much. Next item is agenda item 14, Leisure Service Review. I'll hand over to Laura Miller.
Thank you, Chair. Stop it. The Leisure Services Review. This has been raised in questions, and it's very timely because of some of the decisions that we're being asked to make at the moment. Currently, we own or fund 9 leisure facilities across Dorset. We've got a mix of operating models. So we've got facilities either managed in-house, managed by third-party contractors, or on a lease management. Doing this work, doing a proper leisure strategy, would enable us to consider and adopt a more strategic approach to the way we operate our leisure facilities and our services. We'll look at physical activity in its broadest sense. We'll work closely with public health, with the clinical commissioning group, other leisure and sports providers, and also with our own councils, green spaces, rights of way, country parks and outdoor education centres, which people often forget are part of our leisure offer as well. We have scope within this to extend the Dorchester, Ferndown and Blandford contracts until 2025 if we need to, under Regulation 72 modification of the contract of the Public Contract Relations 2015. That was a mouthful. An extension of these contracts to the end of March 24 would help us to create a harmonised end date and provide the necessary time to consider and implement a preferred future management approach. So you can see from the questions that were raised earlier, the discussions we're having at the moment, that there is an appetite for us to consider our overall strategic leisure offer across the whole of Dorset Council area. So I'm happy to take any questions. We have Paul here if there are any really hard questions. But really, this is a good piece of work. It's a good thing to do for Dorset, and I can't wait to get started. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Laura. Do I have a seconder? I think I do, Jill. Thank you very much. You wish to speak?
It's working. Marvellous. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really pleased that this has come forward. I think it's so much more than just leisure services. I think this is about health and well-being of people, all told. It's not just the nice things to do, but it's the things that people really have to do in order to feel well and in order to be fit and healthy. And therefore, we're broadening it out from just the building-based situation that we have at the moment is a really, really positive move, and I welcome that, and therefore I'm pleased to second this report.
Thank you very much, Jill. Any non-executive colleagues? Mike Parks?
Am I on? Yeah. Thank you very much. I also welcome this extension and the review, and I don't need to go into the benefits that you've already explained, but Ferndown Leisure Centre specifically provides a valuable asset to all members of the community across all demographics in the whole of the East Dorset area, and it isn't just specific to Ferndown and my ward in Ferndown, but the wider East Dorset area. It is an old building, however, fabric-wise, it's actually in good condition, and it would be really real shame to see a loss of that facility in there. Where I'm coming to really is, first of all, the assurance that local members will be involved in the consultation. And I, two and a half years ago, was a member of the Leisure Centre EAP, so recognise some of the opportunities that this will bring. And also, secondly, given the close proximity to Ferndown Upper School, who already have expressed a potential desire to take over the full running of the leisure centre, if this becomes an option, the assurance that full public access will be maintained at all times moving forwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mike. Ask Laura to respond, please.
Thank you, Mike. I'm not going to, I'm sure you appreciate, I'm not going to comment on specifics because we haven't done the work yet, but you have my full assurance that members, all members can engage in this. I'm allergic to consultations, I don't like them. That this will be a review, this will be a piece of work. Anyone is welcome to come and, talk. There'll be so many opportunities. I intend that it's going to be really wide reaching. So any member that has an interest or has anything in their patch that they think should be highlighted. I came over to Ferndown and met with you and Kathy Lugg, Councillor Lugg, which was really good. And it's going to be an open, transparent, really positive, I hope, piece of work. So everyone will have an opportunity to get involved. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Derek.
Thank you, Leader. All members will be aware of the awful effect on mental health. Forgive me, sorry, I'm the person who complains about that most, aren't I, as well, sorry. All members will be aware of the awful effect on mental health across all the ages of the past 2 years of people being locked down and kept indoors. My question is, will this authority take a proactive role in getting people out and about with the leaders, say the Countryside Rangers, all the other people with all the assets at their disposal? Will we be taking a proactive role to let people know what's there, how to access it, how to do it and make the most of it? Because it would be very easy to sit back and say people aren't using that or people aren't doing that. We need to get out there and really make people feel better about themselves. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. What a great question. We already do quite a lot of that. I have to say our comms teams are brilliant about the offers that, Moores Valley Country Park, Delston Country Park, we've got orienteering trails, and of course Live Well Dorset are part of the offer around wellbeing, especially mental health wellbeing, which is so important. A couple of summers ago, pre-COVID, I did the free yoga down in Weymouth, park yoga. I mean, you can just turn up and just do some yoga in the park. It's absolutely brilliant. So the answer is yes. We, as part of this work, we'll do as much of that as we can. We'll add to what we promote already, and we'll get as many partners involved as we can. Thank you.
Thanks for the question, Derek. Deborah Gray and then Nick Ireland.
Thank you, Chair. In extending the current 3 contracts till 2024, by implication, does that mean this council will make a decision about the 9 leisure centres by that date? Because this leisure review has been going on since I've been a councillor in 2019, and I'm keen for it to come to a conclusion. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, another really good question. Yes, certainly that's my aim. I think it's timely. We need to do it. We need to get it done. So, yeah, thank you.
Nick?
Yeah, it doesn't mention the other operations we own or fund explicitly. So can I get confirmation that that includes Weymouth Swimming Pool, which is currently operated under, I think, a third party completely? And does it include Redlands?
Includes both of those, I think. It includes certainly the swimming pool. I can get you a detailed list. That's not a problem at all.
Do you want to invite Paul Rutter to help you with that one? Do you know the answer, Paul? He knows the answer.
Thank you, Chairman. In regard to the facilities, yes, Weymouth Swimming Pool is on a lease arrangement to Everyone Active, who also operate Blandford Leisure Centre, and as people are aware, the Redlands site is currently leased to Weymouth College. So both of those are within our mix of facilities that we own, but obviously they are currently being operated by those both third-party operators.
Thank you very much, Paul. Anything else, Laura? You content now? Yeah? Right. I can't see anybody else. So we've got a proposer. We've had a seconder, haven't we? Jill did that, I think. Have we all agreed? Agreed. Big piece of work. Yeah? Thank you very much. On the agenda item 15 now, which is the procurement forward plan. Gary Suttle.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. It was agreed at the commencement of the council that any item of expenditure in excess of £500,000 would be brought to Cabinet. And therefore, today, I give you a list in Appendix 1 of a number of items that are about to go to procurement. And as you can see, some of the figures are large, but we're not here today to discuss the merits of the individual tenders. And as you also see, that the risk element is low. Therefore, the point of the exercise is merely set out in the recommendations, which is 1, to begin each of the procurement processes listed in Appendix A to the report, and 2, that in each instance, the further step of making any contract award should be delegated to the relevant Cabinet portfolio holder after consultation with the relevant Executive Director. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Tony Ferrari? Happy to second. Anything to contribute? No? Any colleagues? I don't see any. It's all pretty procedural and necessary. Cabinet, you happy to agree?
Agree.
Thank you very much. We've done that. We'll go on to agenda item 16 now, which is the QE Leisure Centre Future Management. Laura.
Thank you, Spencer. I think it's fair to say that we've been working on this item for quite some time, and it has attracted, as you would expect, quite a lot of press and some negative feedback. This is a difficult item to bring, but we currently subsidise the leisure centre facilities at QE, Queen Elizabeth Leisure Centre, by around £550,000 a year. And as one of 8 centres, this equates to 33.3% of our overall leisure services budget for the whole Dorset Council area. It's far higher than any of the leisure centres that DC own. It does raise the question as to whether this provides value for money for our residents. In 2019, future capital costs at QE were estimated at 4.7 million over the next 25 years, with the council required to contribute 2.83 million, which is 60% towards that. There is an existing dual use agreement, and it permits the council to give QE school foundation trustees a 2-year notice to withdraw from managing the leisure centre. The leisure centre is owned by the foundation trustees, and any decision around the future operation of the site would be for them as the land and property owners. The school had previously indicated it may be able to provide school and community use of its sports halls, tennis and netball courts, athletic facilities, and may be able to replace the all-weather pitch if they were to receive additional financial support. So over the last few months, I think up to around a year, officers have met regularly with QE School to review a variety of alternative operating options, and Dorset Council are keen to support them during this transitional period with applications for exceptional factor funding, as well as identifying ways to maximise school and community use of the facilities. The all-weather pitch is vital, and one-off transformation funding up to £150,000 could enable this to be replaced, benefiting both QE and the community. Would also allow QE to generate enough income to create a sinking fund for any future replacement. So we've just discussed our leisure services review. We've just agreed to conduct one. The bottom line is this is a facility that we don't own, and it's sucking up over a third of our budget. And if we are looking during a leisure facilities review to be more equitable, then this is something that we must look at. So I'm happy to take any questions. Paul is here for any detail, but the recommendations are in the paper. There are 4 of them. It has been through Place and Resources Overview on the 10th of February, where we had a really good debate, really good discussion, and I think we recognised that this was a difficult decision to make, but one that we must make. So thank you, Chair, and I'm happy to take any questions and debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. Do I have a second? Jill?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I can't say pleased to second this because we are where we are with it. It's a very difficult situation, but we actually have got to provide an equitable service across the council area. And at the moment, as Laura has already said, we don't own this facility. We provide about 1/3 of our total budget to this facility. I think it's only right that we should continue to see how we can support them, but we cannot continue to support them in the way that we have done up to date. So that's why we need to make this decision today. So I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much, Jill. Non-executive colleagues, I think Shane Bartlett's indicated. Shane.
Thank you, Chairman. If I could beg your indulgence, I wish to make a comment and make two, please. The first one is for a deferral on this decision, and I appreciate the timeframes are tight, and I'm almost asking the impossible. I appreciate that. I'd also like to thank you for taking my phone call very late last night, a very late hour, ungodly hour, as I was stuck at work and I'm becoming a bit of a nocturnal animal, as you know. Councillor Miller, I fully appreciate the portfolio that you've got and how difficult that is, and that money is tight. Obviously, COVID hasn't helped, and economically, both ourselves and the government are not in the place that we'd like to be. We did bring 6 authorities together in the hope that pooling those resources and stopping the duplication, we would be in a better place. But unfortunately, this council, at its very beginning, got hit with that COVID pandemic. So I appreciate the position that you're in. I'd like to make reference to page 363, where it says, as part of a wider leisure review, Dorset Council are committed to help create strong, healthy communities. The Council's aims are to support communities to be active, to increase people's health, life expectancy, and reduce health inequalities between areas. Leisure facilities will play a significant role in providing opportunities for all ages to lead a more physical and active lifestyle, alongside the Council's green spaces, rights of way, country parks, and outdoor education entries. Now, I can't imagine anybody's going to disagree with that. You know, we came into being to improve the lives of our residents and make their lives better. Councillor Walsh, I'm sorry he couldn't be here today. I've stood shoulder to shoulder with him in the past with his mantra that planning can be for the good, and provided the infrastructure is there. And as you'll be aware, Chairman, from a former East Dorset District Council days, that in 2014, when they adopted the local plan, Wimborne took on 50% of all the new build in that plan. That was a town that had a council tax base of 3,000 dwellings, which is going to increase to somewhere around 4,500. A massive amount of increase in development with a huge increase in population, and therefore the facility like QE Leisure Centre is desperately needed within the area. Councillor Suttle, the costs and funding model for a QE Leisure Centre, while not ideal, it nevertheless will not resolve this authority's financial pressures. What is needed is a holistic approach to all leisure facilities across Dorset, and I do welcome the fact that there is going to be a strategic review of the leisure facilities across Dorset. Councillor Bryan, while the report says there are other leisure centres within a 20-mile-minute car journey, some of which are in cost terms beyond many residents' budgets and income for those members of the public, where does this leave our climate emergency plan if we encourage our residents to get in their cars to travel to leisure facilities instead of using what is already there? Chairman, we always said that we didn't want to cut services, and I do feel that the potential loss of QE Leisure Centre, if they were not able to bring a rescue package in place themselves, it would be a cut to the services to the residents. That's going to affect a great many ward members. It's not in my ward, but it will stretch from Sturmits to Marshall, all the way out to Cranbourne, past Ferndown, Westmoors, and obviously into the BCP area. By a quirk of geography, obviously, there's nothing we can do about the BCP area. I understand that there will be a review of the leisure facilities across Dorset, which are welcome, and will be reviewed by the People and Health Overview Committee. And this is my other plea. If you cannot defer this item, then could you please put together a cross-party-led task and finish group, which would include the future of QE and Redlands and their operational capability, and safeguard them from closure and incorporate them into the leisure strategy. And I would just like to finish off with, within the report at 13.1 on page 341, there was an overwhelming support for the continuation of the existing operating model, which would result in no change and no impact to residents, the Queen Elizabeth School, and to those that use Queen Elizabeth Leisure Centre. Thank you for your indulgence, Chairman.
Thank you, Shane.
Thank you. Thank you, Shane, for your questions. I'm going to try and answer most of them. So the first one is a difficult answer to give. I don't think we have scope to extend because this is a break clause in a legal agreement. So by voting today, this is us giving our 2 years notice. So I appreciate why you're asking, but I don't think we can. There was also a point in there around active travel and reducing travel times for the environment. If Ray doesn't mind, I'll have a bash at that one. When we did the survey, an incredibly high number of people, despite living very close to QE, said that they drove to QE. And so that seems at odds. Equally, at the same time, there are 4, I've got some detail here, because I thought this might come up. There are 4 areas of SANG, alternative natural green space. I won't go through them, Dogdean, Cuthbury. There are 2 new play areas agreed as part of the local housing development requirements. Within the emerging local plan, there are 5 additional open green spaces, public open spaces in that area, Starview and Bytheway Field. We've got Dorset Council play facilities, 4 of those in Wimborne, and there are others run by the Town Council. So I think that sort of demonstrates that there is ample green space if people want to, if we want to promote, and if people want to engage in cycling, running, walking, all of those great things. The point around the response to the survey, I would expect the overwhelming support for the facility to remain exactly as it is. Change is always difficult, and I suspect that, you know, any resident looking at their much-loved local facility would say, no, it's great, we like it. We would like it to continue as it is. But that's not my job. My job is to look at the whole of Dorset and the leisure provision, and it's just not equitable. So I take your points on board. When we look at the leisure review, as I said to Councillor Parks previously, there will be opportunities for everybody to get involved. Everything will be looked at, everything's on the table related to leisure. So that's the commitment. Everyone can come and get involved. I think I've picked up most of the points. If I've missed anything, drop me an email afterwards and I'll get a fuller answer.
I don't really want to get into a he said, she said, you know, if that's a point of clarity, I want to move on. Shane?
Thank you, Chairman. It was just my point as to whether a task and finish group could be set up to specifically look at the QE and Redland situation and whether that could then be incorporated into the strategic approach with the leisure review, please. Thank you.
Part of the leisure review, I don't think that's a issue, is it?
So I don't think it's appropriate as part of the leisure review to look specifically at those 2, because I want to look at the whole piece. Also, they're really, really different things. You know, we are the landowner at Redlands, but not the operator. We're the operator at QE, but not the landowner. So I think it would be really difficult to sort of specifically say, let's look at theirs. And then you probably have people sort of saying, well, actually, can we specifically look at Purbeck? And can we specifically look at Blandford? And can we specifically look at Ferndown? That was my sort of point around the widest offer possible. Everybody will have their own facility near them that they identify with, and I really want everybody to get involved, so it's as far-reaching as possible. Thank you.
And I do recall, in response to a point on previous report about the review, that we refer back to an EAP that took place in 2019. Here we are in 2022, and we haven't got there yet. So I think there's an awful lot of the issues have been aired well in the past. I think what you're trying to do now is bring it all together and bring it to a conclusion. But thanks very much for your points, Shane, really helpful. Now, Les, I think I've got you.
Thank you, Chairman. I support this decision. I've seen all the consultations sitting on place and overview meeting, and it was disappointing that the vast majority of them, if not all of them, were negative comments. This is an opportunity for them to develop, market this leisure centre. We've heard how many new houses are going into that area. What an ideal opportunity to market this centre to make it better than anywhere else. What incentive at the moment is if we pump prime and keep funding it for them to improve the services? I've had a friend of mine go there and says it's closed, it's often not open, it's unwelcoming. So I see this as a positive opportunity. And I know Councillor Miller has already answered the question at the place and overview, but what support could we give a new committee of trustees who are being proactive, set up to take this forward, to develop this into a centre of excellence on their own behalf? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Fry, and I'm grateful for the support. We did have a really positive discussion in the end at your committee, and we did all recognise that it could be a really good opportunity for the area. We have got in the recommendations the capital funding up to £150,000. So that's the kind of cash bit. But I think, you know, there is a commitment over the next 2 years to work alongside the school to actually, and the trustees, to actually offer guidance, answer questions, you know, look at best practice. So we can absolutely support. And what I would love to see is us, as Dorset Council, supporting QE into having its own thriving community and school leisure centre. I think that would be a really good thing, and that's certainly my aim. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I did get a call from the local member on Sunday morning, so Shane's not alone at disturbing me at different times of the day, and he echoed many of the points you made, Shane, and I expected him to anyway. But he is also realistic about the costs and so on. So he's not against what's before us, but he did want to make the point quite strongly that it'll have an impact. But it's a case then of trying to see what sort of impact it will have. And it's a break clause. We're giving 2 years' notice. Quite enough opportunity for another operating model to come forward, I would have thought. So, Cabinet colleagues, Ray.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to add a couple of things, if I may. First of all, it's not us deserting them, it's working with them to provide a facility that is going to be even better. Recently, we've used part of our decarbonisation money to help them reduce the running costs of the leisure centre, because the biggest running cost is without doubt the swimming pool. So we provided them with cash to actually put in the required facility to make sure we reduce the cost of running that swimming pool. And I would add that, Shane, you know how passionate I am about trying to get people to stay fit. Looking at me, people would wonder why I don't do it to myself. But I'll take that as a criticism from people. I'm working on it. But I think it's very important that we maintain this sort of facility and working with them, and I'm sure we will give them every bit of help in turning this into something that will become very special for the area. And certainly from my point of view, I will work with Laura to make sure that if we can do anything else during the period we're managing it to reduce the costs, we will work together on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ray. Any other Cabinet member wish to comment? If not, we have a recommendation before. It's been proposed and seconded to exercise the break clause. Can we agree?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Move on to agenda item 17. Don't think we need to dwell too long on this one unless somebody's got something earth-shattering to tell us about, which is Cabinet portfolio holder updates. Anything to report? I know there's some reports have been done. If not, I'm going to move on. I don't need to seek any agreement from anybody. Ray, agenda item 18, Climate and Ecological Emergency Executive Advisory Panel Update.
Chairman, since my last report to Cabinet, Dorset Council's budget has been agreed, and in that budget there's £750,000 worth of revenue support and a £10 million capital over the next 5 years. At that full council, a question was raised by the leader of the Lib Dems, Councillor Nick Ireland, who I will always consider to be a friend as much as a foe, as to what had been done since the emergency was declared. To avoid any further doubt, let me just point out some of the actions that we have taken. We formed a cross-party executive advisory panel. We held several public meetings to give the public the opportunity for the public to express their views on ways forward. We held workshops, again, to get the views of people who are both for and against the climate change plan. We've held meetings with staff from all sections of the council to get their views on the way forward. This included finance, children's services, adult services, housing, planning, waste, highways, and the environment. We held members' webinars to give all members an input into our plans. We created a strategy and action plan, and we have received several positive comments on these plans. We submitted a bid to government for funding, and we received 19 million of funding to decarbonise DC-owned properties, the fourth largest amount awarded. We have distributed several millions of pounds of funding via Low Carbon Dorset, including supporting the first hydrogen production facility within Dorset. Over the past 2 years, we have continually reduced the carbon footprint within Dorset Council. Recently, a report placed Dorset Council at number 40 out of 401 councils on achievements, something that I am particularly proud of on behalf of this council. We have created a new position as Corporate Director for the declared climate and ecological emergency. Stephen Ford, who is joining us from Cornwall Council and has held a similar position there, he will be responsible for working with other sections of this council, creating off-the-shelf funding, bids, and finding ways of raising money. We have installed over 50 EV charging points, and we are now moving on to phase 2, and we're planning phase 3. We are in the process of creating safe cycle paths for use by all age groups. It's no secret we won an award from the Transforming Cities Fund of over 100 million. I'm pleased to report that and this is of particular interest to Councillor Bartlett, the Lye Road cycleways are now complete, and I am opening them on Thursday this week. You're more than welcome to join me, Shane. On a slight aside, the area of outstanding national beauty have been working with local farmers to help bring about our ecological plans by giving small grants to landowners to bring about work on hedges, soil, etc. We have created a draft fleet strategy on alternatively fuelled vehicles. We are looking at the replacement of a substantial amount of vehicles that are due for replacement in the near future. Slight aside, Shane Paul Kimber's not here. Last month we tested a battery-operated waste collection vehicle in Portland. We're awaiting for the report, but the initial reaction from residents, were they a bit disappointed? They couldn't hear the vehicle coming, so they didn't put their bins out. And we've had a little bit of comment on that. So that's just one of the things that happen. The list of work we're doing continues. We're talking to renewable energy companies. We're trying to work on either partnerships or have something pretty special. I'm determined. One of my legacies to this council will be that we will be well underway to making the council create its own energy within Dorset Council, thus removing our footprint going forward. And we, as I say, we've had several meetings with renewable energy companies on this. I'm working very closely with my colleague, Councillor Ferrari, who does this under property and assets. And I will point out that going back to the 19 million, it wasn't easy to get the money, but it seems easier to get it than to spend it. Because during the period we've had the money, we've noticed cost increases in the region of 20%. And the noise you've been hearing that has now stopped is probably the workforce putting the solar panels on the roof of this building to bring about a reduction in our carbon footprint. All in all, I think this council should be proud of what it's achieved, and for us to have secured a member of staff from a council that he's seen to be pretty well ahead on this sort of issue, but he wants to come and join us because he likes our strategy and action plan. And so I'm going to end my report there. You could probably gather that I'm quite proud of what we do, and this council should be extremely proud of what we do. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Ray. Very, very good summary of the advances we've made since we declared the emergency. Now we're going to go on to agenda item 19, urgent items. There aren't any today. So we go to agenda item 20, exempt business. Can I have a proposal to move to exempt?
I propose moving to exempt business, Chairman.
We're going to have a break now, just to make sure we have got the confidentiality that we need to deal with the exempt business. Have a 5-minute break. Thank you.